Hey guys, Sarah here, and I'm the artist behind Chroma Yadi. And while I've been an artist for a long time, I'm new to the world of pour art, which means I've made a few mistakes. And today, I'm going to show you how I fix them. So tip 1, keep your paint. The reason why you need to keep your paint is if you're going to try to touch up anything on your painting at all, you gotta have, obviously, the same exact color. You never know when you're gonna have an edge or a corner or just a little imperfection in your painting after it dries, and you're gonna be really thankful that you have some leftovers. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. I found that the easiest, if you have a cup, is just take a sandwich baggie, put a rubber band around it, and that's gonna stay good for a while. Another thing you can do is get some of these cute little squeezy bottles, and you can pour it into there, and this will keep it good for a really long time. Another reason why these are great is because when you're trying to add just a little bit of a color at a time, this is a really controlled way of doing this. And I'm going to include the link of where I got these down below. So keep your paint, keep the air out, and you're good to go. Tip number 2 is how to fix cracks and craters. Cracks are obviously harder, and to be honest, some of this can be more trouble than it's worth. In the time it takes you to make a pour painting, you might have spent 3 times as long trying to fix this. But I do have some advice if you're really in love with a piece and you want to try to save it. So as you can see in this piece here, I have a lot of cratering that's kind of happening. Not quite cracks, but clearly there was something that went wrong with my mix and my white paint. And it was a little thicker than all the other paint that I used. I used a new brand that I'd never used before, and I found that it just needed to be a lot more thinned out than other mixes that I had made. What you're gonna need to fix this is honestly what caused the problem in the first place, which is thicker paint. So you're gonna need to mix a coat of paint that's a lot thicker than anything you would normally use for pour paintings, like almost straight acrylic paint. First thing is you want to make sure your painting is completely dry and there aren't any wet spots, and then you want to take a baby wipe and wipe everything down to remove some of your silicone oil, because you don't want that mixing with your paint. So all you need is just a palette knife. You can see mine is well loved. I use this a lot. And I have my pretty thick paint. You can see that the consistency here is super thick. So I just added just a little bit of water. Obviously it depends on the kind of paint you have. Some's going to be thicker than others. But all you need to do is kind of put down a little dab. And use your palette knife. You want to try to get it as smooth and even as possible, just like when you spackle a wall. But you just want to be real slow and intentional. Try to get as much into those little grooves as possible. A little bit more here. I find working smaller areas at a time is a little better than trying to put a big gob on all at once. When it's thicker, it's going to dry a heck of a lot faster. And then any areas that are a little rough on the edges, just kind of blend out. If your paint starts drying out too much and your edges are starting to show, even when you're using your paintbrush, just put a little water on your paintbrush and that will help smooth it back out. A tip for trying to fill in deep cracks. Obviously this process is only working because I was able to mix new thick paint. Something I have tried on cracks is actually letting my mixed pour paint sit out for a day or two. It depends on how much you have left, but that will automatically thicken it up, and then I've used that to pour into cracks. Just like this process though, I found that usually you gotta do it a few times. Alright, so the piece I'm trying to fix is actually a diptych, which means there's 2 canvases that I poured at the same time, so they of course both had the same issues. I've already gone over the craters on this one, I think probably about 4 times and let it dry. This is where I was trying to tell you that this is a very time-consuming process and may not be worth the effort. These two, unfortunately, had quite a bit of manipulation, not just a small, tiny bit. I think because there's just so much of the white that was mixed improperly. As you can see, though, it is quite a bit smoother than the other one. There's some little lumps and bumps still, and so I may go over it like one more time. But it is smoothing it out. It's a slow process. In the end, I found that it's still not 100% perfect. It's if you mixed your paint right to begin with. But what I found is if you put a thick enough top coat of polyacrylic finish on it, it will smooth out what little unevenness you have. And bonus, it's going to make your painting look shiny, just like when it was wet. Alright, so this has gotten a couple of coats of the polyacrylic top coat on it. And I'm pretty impressed with the results. I mean, there was a lot of drying time between things, but like I said, it's not perfect. But compared to what it looked like with all of the cratering before I tried to fix it, I think it looks pretty cool. And like I said, when you put that top coat on there, it just makes everything look so much more shiny and polished and professional looking. I would do it on all of my pieces if it didn't take so much time or cost so much money, but definitely worked. Tip number 3, I'm going to show you how to pour on top of an already poured painting, but keeping some of what's already existing. So in the case of this painting, I must have tried 3 times in one night to fix and adjust and swipe off, and for whatever reason, I think I'm just tired, I could not make this painting work. And it's okay, but really the only part of it I really love is what happened here. So I'm gonna try to pour on top of everything else that's existing and just keep that area. So this is completely dry, and as you can see, this was the area here that I was trying to keep and blend into a new painting. And I think that worked pretty well. I mean, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of difference here in depth as far as my second coat of paint not looking like it's blended in. I think it really helped that I brought in some of the darker blue color and outlined things to kind of trick your eye, because when you're looking at it as a whole, you're not really going to notice that area. And anywhere where there were differences, there's a little bit like over here where it got a little thicker with the white paint. I said I put that top coat on it, you would never be able to tell that that's what was going on. But you know, what we learned here is that you can keep part of a painting and paint over top of it. I hope these tips helped, and let me know in the comments below if you're running into any other issues, because I've probably done it too. See you next time.